If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it even make a sound?
Oh, yeah.
We are the proverbial tree in the forest, my friend.
Oh, yeah. What's up there? Answers by guess. Week 9. What's up there, buddy?
I'm over here now.
I know. I switched it around. Yo, they're making it easier. I'm like, pap, 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 pap. Oh, pap, 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 all over the place, bro. Oh, my God. Week 9, guys. Week 9. We are here. We are halfway through. And to be honest with you, it's, what is it? Running backs and QBs is everything of the topics that I've seen throughout this week. And it's not looking pretty out there. But you know what? That's why you guys are here. Remember, guys, Fantasy Football's inside scoop from outside the box. Remember to always like us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, and now podcasting on Spotify. Always look for those hashtags, answers by guess, ABGFF and ABG3P. And guys, on the Facebook group, that merch is there. $25 a t-shirt, $45 a hoodie shipped. You got it on, guess?
Yeah, I got it on.
Let's see it. Show it off, baby.
That's a good
Show
deal.
it
That's
off.
a good deal because it costs like $10 to ship them. So,
all right,
like $15 a shirt.
How was your Halloween, bud? Did you have fun?
Not bad. Can't complain. Kids are weak, very weak.
Uh-oh.
We're like not even 6 houses in, and they're like, "Are we done?" Me and my wife were like, what? We're like, we used to go out when it was light until it was like the street lights were on past 8 o'clock, carrying a pillowcase filled with candy in the pouring rain, the freezing cold. It's a beautiful night out. What's your problem?
Oh, yeah. We used to go to complexes.
Too easy.
Have to hit up at least 50 houses. At least 50 houses.
Yeah. We would not just do our street. We would do all of the streets around us. We lived in a pretty big neighborhood. So
these kids don't know how good they have it nowadays to be able to get the candy. All right, guys. Bye weeks. Denver Broncos, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the San Francisco 49ers. If you have any of those people in there, get thumbed up out. We ready to jump in there, buddy?
Yeah, once again, we had 3 people. We were just down to 1. Now we got 2. You got to say hello. You got to like, laugh, love, hate, whatever you got to do, cry. But like I said in the intro, nobody ever sees the intros. You really should check out the intros. I think it's some quality work. I mean, we are the proverbial tree in the forest that no one's around to hear. We were 24-8 last week on ABG3P. That's 75%. The calls that we were telling people, and you tell me if I was wrong about one. If you're not watching the video and you watch it back, you can reply. But I can't recall too many. I mean, we killed it, and it was a week where everybody was playing. And I don't know, man. I don't know what more we can do, but we're going to keep on trucking along this week. We got a lot of interesting matchups, to say the least. It started with one on Thursday. Pickett should have had 2 touchdowns. Pickens, what are you doing? Get those feet down. But moving on.
See what happened with Pickens? He unfollowed social media for all Pittsburgh stuff. He stopped following Kenny Pickett. And I mean, obviously, a lot of people make a bigger deal than all that stuff, but you never know. I mean,
there's not much he can do.
They won, though. That's the crazy part, is that they won.
There's not much he can do. The trade deadline's over. What are you going to do? Quit?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But let's jump into it, guys. ABG3P, propositions, preparations, and our preferences on different spot bets that we're seeing out there, prop bets, trying to figure out, just again, talking about these games. First one on my list is the Germany game. Miami Dolphins at the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go over under Raheem Mostert, 52.5 rushing yards. Had another touchdown last week, man.
Yeah, it's tough because I think Wilson's going to get a lot more burn this week, another week healthier. It just seems so low because I feel like he's got a 60-yard run in him at all times. I'm going to go over because I could see him getting to 53, but I don't really. I mean, this is right off the bat, one of the interesting games. I mean, yeah, Germany, yeah, it's Kansas City, who will say whatever you want, a little bit of a shell of themselves. I mean, Russell Wilson's outplaying Patrick Mahomes in pretty much every single category still, and most people don't even realize that. Yes, he's a better quarterback at this point. Just do what you will with it. But it is the Dolphins, it is the Chiefs, it is at 9:30. We do love those.
Football all day, baby.
But I'm going to go with the over here. Interesting games. I lost my train of thought.
All right. On the flip side here, over under Travis Swift, 83.5 receiving yards.
I'm going to go under. She's not going to be at the game as far as I know, unless she started her world tour early, and he only plays really well when she's there. So if she shows up, he'll probably go over. But I'm going to go under because I think the Dolphins make it a point to take him out of the game.
I can see that. They always like those high-scoring games overseas, man. So I could see it being high-scoring, but again, I think it's going to be some ancillary guys. You're going to see a little bit more, Raji Rice, I feel like. Even like you said, Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to get some love. I don't think it's going to be your huge
Hardman
that you're seeing, but Hardman getting some more love. I mean, he had a big fumble last week, but
I like Pacheco in this one. I think they're going to rely on the ground a little bit. Keep that Miami offense as good as the Chiefs defense has been. Keep them off the field. So
it seems like Mahomes is healthy again too. Last week with that flu symptoms. All right, next game here on my list: Seattle Seahawks at the Baltimore Ravens. Over under Geno Smith 1.5 passing touchdowns.
DK's banged up going in. Lockett's a little banged up going in.
He is.
They're using Bobo. I had a cat named Bobo. I honestly did.
Oh,
she was a bit of a bit. Scratch the.
We're gonna go with a G rating here, buddy.
I'm gonna go under. He's gonna get one.
All right. On the flip side of the ball here, Mr. Gus Edwards with 3 touchdowns last week. Over under 60.5 total yards.
Yeah, over. I'm going to go over.
He looked good last week, man.
I do think that they try and give Lamar a little bit of a better game in this one because it was all Edwards last week. But I think total yards, he doesn't catch many passes. But if you can get 1 or 2 in there for 15, that takes 25% off that total. So.
All right, let's go on to the next one here. Los Angeles Rams at your Green Bay Packers. Over under Tyler Higbee, 3.5 receptions. Seemed to come on a little bit last week as well.
They're going to have Dresser Wynn as their quarterback. Interesting.
Yep. I'm starting Green Bay Packers defense in a lot of places.
Yeah, no clue. You got Puka banged up. I'm going to go over because what's the backup rookie quarterback's best friend, Mr. Robert?
Always the tight end, baby. That's why I chose him.
Hey, you know what? I don't have my little names there. We don't have our names. What's your name? What happened to those?
Only when we're like that. When there's something at the bottom, they go away for some reason. You know what? I agree, though. They should be on the bottom there.
Like what?
Maybe I can figure out how to make that happen.
2024 almost.
All right, on the flip side of the ball here, over under Christian Watson, 7.5 fantasy points, half PPR. I know it sounds kind of low, but he hasn't been getting the burn, man. It's been everybody else.
He hasn't been. Jordan Love is god awful. But I'm going to say there's a short field with Dresser Wynn, just because I know nothing about him. I should have watched some YouTube vids, but I don't even know, did he even play college? Like, it seems like he literally just came out of the furniture store. Nobody knows who he is or where he came from. I'm not going to pretend like I do. He could be good. But I say there's at least a short field, and Watson bails out Love, gets a touchdown, which all it has to be is from outside the 10-yard line. So I'm going to go over.
All right, let's jump into some comments real quick. Remember, guys, always like, comment, and share. We appreciate every single one of you. Jeremy, thanks for tuning in here, bud. Good streaming defense this week. I mentioned one, Green Bay Packers.
He just gave you one.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go with another one? It's not great, and most would not agree, based on recency bias because, if you've stuck with us at all for the past 7 years, at least a couple, recency bias is one of the worst things that you can rely on in fantasy football. Whatever happened last week is over. Doesn't matter. But the Patriots at home against Washington, and Sam Howell was in that big game last week. You can pass all over Philly. That is their weakness of the defense. But this is in New England. Belichick will have a plan. And with them trading away their defensive line, I think that the New England Patriots are going to be able to move the ball. I think they're going to use Demario Douglas. I like Stevenson in this one. And because of that, I think it's going to force Washington into some bad situations. So Rob gave you Green Bay. I'll give you Patriots because those are two that are probably out there.
It's funny. Next game on my list here, Washington Commanders at the New England Patriots. Over under Sam Howell, 265.5 passing and rushing yards.
So we're probably looking at about 240 passing because he should be projected.
Usually does get at least, somewhere around there. It's usually like 22.5 or something like that where I'm seeing the props coming in.
I don't think New England offense is going to explode to the point where they have quick drives. You know what? Let's go under. Under.
Right. Another guy that you mentioned, your boy, Demario Douglas, 42.5 receiving yards, over under.
He's starting to pop up on the people that get paid to do this watch list and waiver list. And I gave you his name. It was probably like week 4 was when I said, maybe even sooner.
I was going to say,
maybe even sooner.
Before that.
Yeah, because I think somebody had mentioned Booty, and I was like, well, what about Demario Douglas? And then you had to look it up to make sure that was actually his name.
I agree. I'd had no clue who he was.
So we might be even talking the first month of the season, and now he's popping up. And he's their number one, stroke of luck, I guess, stroke of bad luck with Kendrick Bourne. But Douglas is the guy. I don't think Parker's playing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a lot of people picking up Juju out there. I saw too, man.
So this is going to fly over. He might hit 100.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He might hit 100 with that defensive line. They're gone. They got rid of everybody.
Yeah, I know the Commanders. It's like they're quitting, but yet they're not quitting. I don't know. It seemed like a weird move.
Very weird. Maybe they want some draft picks. I don't know.
All right, let's go on to the next one here. Tampa Bay Bucks at the Houston Texans. Yes or no, Mr. Chris Godwin, 1 touchdown.
Gosh, Rob, you're getting good at this because I really like Mike Evans this week. I feel like he's, he got his touchdown, I think, last week, if I'm not mistaken. But he's kind of been the second fiddle. Yeah. He's kind of been the second fiddle. And I feel like this is going to be a little more Evans-esque this week. I think they're going to use multiple running backs. When they do throw the ball, I like Evans, and I like Cade Otton coming on some. So I think if Baker throws 2, Cade Otton and Mike Evans each get 1. So I'm going to say no.
All right. On the flip side of the ball, this guy's coming on, man. Noah Brown, 30.5 receiving yards, over under.
He's in that good spot with no Woods.
Yes, sir.
And
he's looked okay. I think he's averaged like almost 40 yards a game or something like that.
And Tank and Nico were supposed to be the best 2, but Noah was the starter before Tank in the beginning of the year. So really, he's at worst their number 3, and Tank's the 4. You would think after a pretty decent week out of him, couple weeks, the week before, I think he had one really big play early on, then didn't do much, that the Bucks don't forget about him, but they've got to pay so much attention to the other 2, and Schultz had a down week last week, but it was coming on before that, before the bye. I'm going to go over.
Yeah, I think Stroud actually bounces back a little bit this week as well. I know the Tampa Bay Bucks defense is pretty good, but I can see them being able to move the ball. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Arizona Cardinals at the Cleveland Browns. Over under Marquise Brown, 4.5 receptions. Who's the quarterback?
I get my boy Clayton Tune to finally get in the game, but it's because they traded Dobbs and Kyler is 1 week away. So if Tune is terrible, they might throw Kyler in and they might just let him rot out there to the Browns defense, because I think that they're saving Kyler for after this game. They don't want him getting murdered by the Browns in Cleveland, which is smart and it's respectful. I give them props for that. Even, they didn't like the guy, but they're being nice to him here. And you just don't know who's Tune going to throw to. But Michael Wilson's banged up. The Browns cover the tight end really well. So there goes your McBride. Everybody's going to want to chase those stats last week. We were telling you to pick him up. He was a 5 guy for your eye in the preseason, I believe. Yeah, and then I was talking about him last year, his rookie year. I'll go over. I'll go over just because I feel like the other options aren't too appealing. I'll go over. I don't like it, but he could wind up with 4, but I'll go over.
All right. On the flip side of the ball, Deshaun Watson coming back. Over under 1.5 passing touchdowns.
I like Ford in this one. I think he's going to be back.
I have to start Kareem Hunt, and I feel like with Deshaun Watson, that might help him out a little bit.
I just feel like they can run all over Arizona.
That is correct.
And if he throws 2, it's going to have to be a relatively close one to Njoku. And it would be nice if they got Elijah Moore involved for once. Maybe Kareem Hunt gets one. I don't like it. I think that he might end up with even 0 because I don't know how much he's going to have to throw and how healthy that arm shoulder is. But I'm going to go over.
All right.
Because he could wind it. I would not play him. 2 touchdowns out of a quarterback this year, last year is solid. It's a great matchup. But this is just one of those ones that we talk about quite often where it's like, how much are they really going to need him to do anything? But I have a feeling if and when they get close, a couple quick short ones might end up being easier.
I like it. I like the thinking. All right, let's jump into comments here. What's up there, Marty? Thanks for putting out Marty? The hashtag. We appreciate you. He asked Dotson or Raji Rice. Dotson had a big week last week.
Yeah, I'm going to go Rice, and there's a couple reasons why. Dotson last week, we said it. I said it 2 weeks ago. I said, I feel like Dotson's going to have a game, and then he didn't. And then last week I said, I think we were a week too early. And sure enough. Now, also, 2 reasons, and one of them is still true. 2 reasons he had a big game last week, other than being due. One, it was against Philly. So they're in that back and forth game. So really 3. And the way that you beat Philly is through the air, especially deep, which is his forte. And Samuel was out. Samuel's out again. So that's going to help. But I just have a feeling about that New England defense getting after Sam Howell and shutting down that offense at a greater degree than Miami is going to shut down Kansas City's. And with Miami looking to take out Kelsey, I'm going to play Rice. I'm going to go with the bona fide 1 for wide receivers over Dotson. But listen, I told a buddy of mine that wanted to scoop Dotson. I'm like, yeah, scoop him. I'm like, but I don't know if you should play him this week. I think it's more of okay, he did it last week. If you don't have to use him, don't use him. I'm using him in the league, but that's because I have to. Because I'm on Ross St. Brown is on bye. Michael Wilson's banged up. So I have to. But if you didn't have to, if you had Rashid Rice, I would go with Rashid Rice. I think there's no D in his name. Rashi.
Yeah, I think it's Rashi or something.
Rashi. Yeah. He's Rashi.
And I'm actually thinking the same thing. Like I even mentioned when we were talking about the game, I feel like this is going to be more of your ancillary guys like a Raji Rice. You had mentioned Jeff Wilson Jr. as well.
It's going to be all hands on deck, I think, for both teams. And I want a piece of that game. over the game in New England, where I just recommended them as a sleeper D.
All right, let's go on to the next one here. Chicago Bears, excuse me, at the New Orleans Saints, over under Cole Kmet 30.5 receiving yards, ended up with 10 catches and 90-something yards last week.
You're welcome, Marty. Yeah, Kmet, he went from nothing. He went from a few good stretches to nothing, and then a huge game last week. Saints are tough. What's his face actually practiced yesterday? Fields for the first time. He's not going to play, but he practiced.
I think him and Herbie are going to come back both next week. Bring that Bears offense back.
So I'll go over. You can get to 36, I think, as a floor.
All right. On the flip side of the ball, a lot of controversy and a lot of people talking about Chris Olave this week, man. Over under 11.5 fantasy points, full PPR.
Yeah, what's the controversy?
They're just the whole him getting into an incident, and then he hasn't really been looking great with Carr. Carr hasn't been looking his way, especially they put up points last week. Shaheed still keeps on getting that deep ball, man. You would think that it would be Olave at some point, but they're really liking Shaheed in that role.
Well, last week his head was not in the right place. It obviously wasn't in the right place a night or two before. And after being arrested and then having to step on a football field within 48 hours, I mean, that's got to be something. And I just don't think his head was there. But he's had a week to clear it, a week to prep. And I think he goes over 11.5 this week. I think he'll go over 11.5 in a standard league, Rob.
Ooh, I want to write that down.
I could see 60 in a touchdown for sure.
From your voice to God's ears, so that can happen. I need him in Dynasty to come through for me. All right. Minnesota Vikings at Atlanta Falcons. Mr. Jaron Hall, 193.5 passing yards.
God, if there's one person in the world that can make the Green Bay defense look good, he came into the game. He did absolutely nothing. Green Bay had 3 chances in the red zone, went for it on 4th down every single time. If they would have just kicked field goals every time, Green Bay would have won the game. But that's not how the NFL is. They don't think about stuff like that. I mean, I'm watching the game and I'm like, all right, it's 4th down. Yeah, you're down by 6 points or whatever it was. 7 points, I can't remember. And I'm like, yeah, you need a touchdown, but kick the field goal because you're going against this quarterback that has never played before.
Yeah.
And you just stopped them 3 and out. What they do, went for it, didn't get it because Jordan Love is terrible. Then they get the ball again. They get inside the red zone. They go for on 4th down instead of kicking a field goal. They turn it over. Then what do? Stop Jaron Hall again, 3 and out. Get the ball back. Have to go for a touchdown. End up losing the game. It's like, just kick field goals. Just kick field goals. Rely on your defense. I'm going under.
I need their defense. I mean, Green Bay's defense is so ebbs and flowy. I feel like this year.
They're terrible.
But it has to do with Love. I mean, I don't know. They're on the field a lot.
He's so bad. He's absolutely so bad. I can't stand it. And every single week I see, before it's a bye, you're going to see us look like Miami. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You look like the stars of Miami Vice from the 80s. You look like old men that can do nothing out there. And then it was, we've got to rework something. Nothing. And now this week they're like, we're going to scrap everything we've been doing and try something new. It's like, how about you just use Aaron Jones? How about you just call some plays that throw to open wide receivers? That's all you have to do.
Man.
That's all you have to do. I'm going under here. I think that this is going to be a very slow-paced game from Atlanta's side of things and relatively close. And I don't even know who wins this one. I think it's a 2-point game either way. Low scoring.
It's funny. I mentioned quarterbacks earlier. It's like, the quarterback controversies. My boy, Mr. Tyler Heineke, Is going to be starting for Ritter. 1.5 passing touchdowns over under.
Yeah, we liked Taylor a couple of years ago when he took the Skins. They were the Skins, weren't they, at that time?
point?
They might have
Yeah.
been. At least they were the football team
Probably
into the
football team.
playoffs, and I think almost beat Brady, if I'm not mistaken. Brady ended up going to the Super Bowl and winning it. It's a couple of years removed from that. He looked okay last week. I don't think he looked way better than Ritter. But they gave him more freedom than Ritter, which was nice to see. No Drake London.
He's out.
Kyle Pitts should have a pretty good game. But it's like, if I'm Atlanta and I'm going against Jaron Hall, I'm running Heineke. I'm running Algier. I'm running Bijan. And I'm running Cordero Patterson. And I'm just taking the air out of the ball. So I'm going under here.
All right, on to the 4 o'clock games here. Indianapolis Colts at the Carolina Panthers. Over under. Jonathan Taylor, 66.5 rushing yards. He's been looking. The uptick is happening, but Zach Moss is still there, man. He's still taking the ball from him.
Well, you watch the games, you see Jonathan Taylor killed it in the first half. And then the second half, they didn't use him. It was all Zach Moss. He just sat on the bench. Didn't even bother. I think he had one carry, maybe one snap. I don't even remember. Just nothing. It's just ridiculous. But going against the Panthers, he will get 66.5. Let's go over.
All right. On the flip side, I heard you mentioning it to a couple people on the group. Mr. Bryce Young, over under 15.55 fantasy points, 4-point touchdowns.
Yeah, I like how you throw the 4 points just to put a wrench in my brain.
I have to. I have to.
Who does a 4-point touchdown?
There's a lot of leagues that do.
I don't even
touchdowns.
I don't even understand. I don't know why. Because it's 1 point more than a field goal. Like what? It's 6 points on the field.
6 field and are hard.
Especially nowadays when quarterbacks are terrible. Like you should not be playing a 4-point touchdown. Like, you need those 6 points. You need those extra 2.
This was actually one of the prop bets that was out there.
He's going over. He's going over. His trajectory is looking nice. He had what I think was his best game of the year last week. It was relatively low scoring, but he looked really good with the ball. I think they both were in the low double digits, right? It was like 13-10 or something like that against Houston, something low. But he looked really good. And Mingo's starting to come on. The trade deadline's gone. I think they're going to start to use Terrace Marshall just a little bit extra. And I like it. I'm going over. I think he breaks 20 this week, even in a 4-point touchdown league.
All right, beautiful. Next game here, Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes or no, Mr. Brandon Cooks, 1 touchdown. He had a touchdown last week, and then he also had a touchdown before the bye week. Seems to be the number 2 over there.
I just want to go back to Bryce Young real quick.
Sure.
Because when the year started, we had the majority. I'm talking Joe Public Joe, right? He was the number 1 pick. He was going to be the best of them all. Stroud surprised everybody, hit a little bit of a wall. Richardson was the one right there with them both, and he got injured. I think it's Bryce Young's time to sort of get a little bit ahead here. So I'm just feeling it, because this is around the time you're starting to see the rookies, the rookie running backs, the rookie wide receivers, the rookie tight ends, and dealt with Kincaid, Mayer, if they would ever throw him the ball. When they actually did throw him the ball, he looked really good a couple weeks ago. So I think this is about it. Halfway point. Rookies.
Yeah, I could see that happening, man. All right, back to this one here. Brandon Cooks, yes or no, 1 touchdown.
I'm going to go no. But I think he'll have a pretty good game, because I think that I kind of like Dallas to win this one, to be honest. They're kind of trending in the right direction. This is a game that they typically are losing the past couple of years, especially this year, and even maybe getting blown out. But I see Philly having a few chinks in the armor, but they're squeaking them out. I think Dallas has the weaponry. I think Pollard can get going a little bit. He's been struggling. And I like Ferguson in this matchup against the Eagles a lot. I think Gallup's banged up. But if he plays, he might not play as much. So maybe we see a little Tolbert. So that's why I'm going to say no to Cooks, because I think CD, Pollard, and Ferguson will be your touchdown guys. And if Tolbert or Gallup catch a long one.
All right. On the flip side here, Devonta Smith, 4.5 receptions over under. Had a pretty good game last week.
Yeah, he was one of the ones that we said that, it's coming. And here it is, right? I like Devonta in this one. I'll say over. I think that he strings a couple together here. 5 receptions. I think he can get to 6 for 73 and a touchdown.
I am writing that down, my friend.
Okay.
All right. New York Giants at the Las Vegas Raiders. Mr. Daniel Jones is back. Over under 193.5 passing yards. Does he make a difference?
If he makes it through the game, he's going over.
If he makes it through the game. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On the flip side of the ball, it's going to be O'Connell being your quarterback. But my question is based on Mr. Josh Jacobs. Over under 97.5 total yards since the backup's going to be in there. I don't know. Benching Jimmy G just doesn't make sense to me, especially with the changeover. What are you proving? What are you changing there? What are you doing?
Well, I tell you, Jimmy G was the reason that they lost as bad
100%.
as they did. But their defense was the reason they were even in it to begin with. Because in all honesty, Detroit should have had 6 or 7 touchdowns. But they just kept having to kick field goals because Max Crosby and the boys were shutting them down. But in all honesty, like Jimmy G, they were in it, and he was just missing throws. He just looked terrible. So you had to, I feel like, make that change. But this goes into the, a couple of years ago, if it wasn't last year, a couple of years ago, John Gruden. Remember, they were terrible. And then we said, oh, well, they fired the coach. People get pumped up, and they came out, they had a good game. So I'll probably see the same sort of thing here. And I haven't really talked about this. We've been going through them, trying to go fast so that you can get to what you have to get to and what I can have to get to. But this is one of those interesting games, right? It's like the Giants are kind of like, they blew it.
That was a horrible game last week. Dude, horrible.
My boy Zach made him pay, missing that field goal.
The last 27 seconds, if they can make that actually happen for 2 or 3 quarters, just let the kid throw the ball. Play a 2-minute offense. Play a 2-minute offense all the time. They
had no choice but to let him throw. And look what he did.
Bro, dying.
Look what he did.
On the run.
This is what I have seen for years, Rob, and what I've been trying to make people understand. They're like, oh, well, he just did it for 20. Yeah, because that's the only time they let him do it. If they would just let him do that all the time, they're too reliant on, we got a good run game. We're not so sure of our quarterback. Our defense is exceptional. Let's just control the game. No, let him rip it. But back to the Giants. Back to Jacob. We'll talk about the Jets when it's their turn. That's such a high number. He looked really good last week. I want him to get it, so I'm saying over. But it'll be tough because the Giants' defense is playing better.
They've been playing good, and that was it was like a 1960s, 1970s. It was defensive matchup, but it was just such a horrible game to watch. I didn't watch Red Zone last week. I watched that game. My parents were over, and my dad's a Jets fan, so he's like, "Let's watch that game." I'm like, "Okay." Half the time I was in the kitchen talking to people because I didn't want to watch it anymore.
I blame him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Sunday night football game. Buffalo Bills at the Cincinnati Bengals being picked up all over the place. Khalil Shakir. 31.5 receiving yards, had a huge game. I think it was like 90 plus, if I'm not mistaken, last week. Caught all the targets that were on his way too. So,
yeah, another interesting matchup, the rematch.
Oh yeah,
Week 17 last year. That's such a low number. I don't think chasing his stats is the right thing to do. His game last week. But 31.5 is just so low. I have to say over, but I would not be surprised if he winds up with like 28. They've been dying for a third guy, but he's been there and he's had games like this. I mean, even last year, and then like he's gone. Just too many other weapons, and I'm just not going to chase last week's stats. But the number's so low, so I'm going over.
I just think Buffalo has enough weapons now between Diggs. If Shakir comes on, Kincaid look great. I think he can be still somebody that, but you're right. It's like 31.5. I'm looking at it, I'm like, damn, I would take that bet. I would probably go over on that.
Yeah. It's very iffy though. They're playing into last week and hoping people chase. That's why I'm sort of like I see him with 28 and just pissing people off that take that. It's happened to me many a times.
It'll be 28 in the first quarter in the first 4 minutes.
And then he breaks a toe.
Phantom concussions.
Worst. Absolute worst.
On the flip side here, Jamar Chase, 15.25.
Over. And Higgins will have a day. Irv Smith, they're starting to use him a little bit. I like it. Mixon's starting to come on a little bit.
Since he's turning the corner, man.
Yeah, this is going to be a good game.
All right, Monday Night Football, Los Angeles Chargers at my New York Jets. Over under Gerald Everett coming on, 3.5 receptions. Had a touchdown last week, too.
With Palmer a little bit banged up, the Jets being the worst team. They're actually the second worst team now against tight ends. I forgot who is the worst.
Arizona?
Cincy.
Really?
Cincy's the worst. Yep. Yeah. I'm going over. Their tight end funnel. Palmer banged up. You know, I had Quentin Johnston. It's just weird watching him. Like they did target him a bunch. He had a bunch, but it's almost like he just doesn't know where to go, how to move his body to catch the ball. It's kind of odd.
All right, on the flip side for my New York Jets, over under Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, 65.5 receiving yards.
If they let Zach throw.
Even with not letting Zach throw that much last week, he got 90 yards. I think the week before that, same concept, he was at 70-something yards.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we said, that Wilson would be okay. I was trying to get Wilson in between.
I was trying to get Wilson, though,
1 and 2. It was crazy how hard it was to get him. People didn't want to give up yet. Smart. I'm going over.
It's the over central. I like it, man.
Is it? I feel like there's a few unders in there.
There was a few unders. More no's for touchdowns and stuff like that than we're used to.
There you go. That's under.
It is, sir. We really don't have any questions or anything like that from the group. You answered all of those already, and we got not too many people here. So,
well, that's awesome. Because that means that I can go watch some scary movies. It doesn't matter if Halloween's over. That's what I do. Go upstairs and maybe watch a movie with the old lady if she's still awake. And Rob, I know you have family over enjoying themselves. Listen, I said it in the intro. I'm going to say it in the outro. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. If we continue to get 75 plus correct calls and nobody's listening to it, shame on you.
I've been playing, to be honest with you. I've been using some of them, man, to be honest. But, all right, guys, remember to like us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, and now podcasting on Spotify. Always look for those hashtags, answers by guests, ABGFF and ABG3P. Don't forget that merch is out there on the Facebook group. $25 for a t-shirt, $45 for a hoodie shipped. And those bye weeks again, Denver Broncos, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the San Francisco 49ers. We wish everybody the best of luck in week 9. Guess anything else?
I love you all. Good luck. Hours.
Oh, yeah.
12 hours. No, that's like 14 hours of football. That's amazing.
I love it. I love
What a
every
time
single
to be
second of it.
alive.
Yeah.
Have
All
a good
right,
night.
guys. Peace.